In 2026, the world was shaken by a release unlike anything we had ever seen before. The US Department of Justice published over 3 million pages of documents.
I won't stop fighting. I will never be silenced.
Thousands of images, and more than 2,000 videos connected to one of the most notorious figures in modern history, Jeffrey Epstein. This was not just another criminal case. These files, compiled over decades, revealed a labyrinth of wealth, influence, and unimaginable cruelty. They uncovered the extent to which Epstein embedded himself into the world's most powerful circles, from politics and royalty to science and business, all while hiding unspeakable crimes behind a veneer of philanthropy. Today, we dive into the Epstein Files, not just as a set of documents, but as a story of power, manipulation, and betrayal. This is a story that spans continents, exposes secrets, and asks a question we all fear to confront. How far can corruption reach when the most influential people are involved? Jeffrey Epstein was born in Brooklyn, New York, in 1953. A child of modest means, he would go on to navigate the elite world of finance with ease, using charisma, intelligence, and an uncanny ability to connect people.
Prince Andrew and the former President Bill Clinton have been named.
More are expected to come out.
But his ambition was more than wealth, it was influence. By the 1980s, Epstein had established himself in Manhattan as a financial advisor and money manager for the ultra-wealthy, including billionaires, corporate executives, and political figures. He cultivated an image of a generous philanthropist, a man deeply interested in science, technology, and education. Epstein didn't just attend elite gatherings, he created them. Private dinners, conferences, and think tank events became his stage. Names like Harvard, MIT, and the Edge Foundation appeared frequently in his orbit. He presented himself as a connector, someone who could bridge the worlds of science, politics, and wealth. Yet behind the charm and the carefully curated image lay a darker obsession. Epstein was a predator, and the files would later reveal the horrifying scale of his crimes. The Epstein Files are a compilation of documents, emails, interviews, court records, and photographs collected by federal investigators over decades. They include everything from financial records and internal memos to personal correspondences and private communications between Epstein and some of the most powerful people in the world. In 2025, the Epstein Files Transparency Act was passed, mandating that these documents be made publicly available. The goal was clear: transparency. But the files were not just informative, they were overwhelming. Millions of pages, thousands of videos, and tens of thousands of images created a massive archive that challenged the ability of even the most dedicated researchers to analyze. Among the most disturbing revelations were the videos and images of Epstein with his victims.
Brilliant manipulator, not just of vulnerable girls and women. He was a brilliant manipulator of powerful men.
A really heinous crime on an absolutely massive scale that was allowed to continue and continue and continue.
Some were intentionally redacted to protect identities, but even partial exposure was enough to confirm the systematic abuse he orchestrated. The files revealed a vast network of associates. Epstein was rarely acting alone. He had a team of facilitators and recruiters, and among them was Ghislaine Maxwell, a socialite who would later be convicted of aiding and abetting his crimes. Maxwell was not just an accomplice, she was integral to the operation, orchestrating introductions, grooming victims, and helping maintain the facade of normalcy. But Epstein's connections did not end with his immediate circle. The files contained names from royalty, politics, academia, and business. Emails and scheduling records show attempts to connect with Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Steve Tisch, and countless others. It is crucial to note, the presence of a name in the files does not automatically imply guilt. Many interactions were social or incidental. But the sheer density of these connections paints a disturbing picture of a man whose access to power was unprecedented, normalized, and unchallenged for decades. One of the most shocking revelations in the Epstein files was the existence of a draft indictment from 2007, accusing Epstein and 3 unnamed accomplices of trafficking 19 young girls between 2001 and 2005. This indictment was never filed. Instead, Epstein reached a non-prosecution agreement, which allowed him to serve a mere 13 months in a low-security facility, while continuing to move freely in elite social circles. The documents make clear that there was a moment when justice could have been comprehensive, but it was scaled back. Investigators drafted detailed evidence, including financial records, victim statements, and eyewitness accounts, yet the system failed to act decisively. The question now haunts the public: how many victims could have been spared if the law had done its job? Beyond the names, the money, and the power, the Epstein files are a record of human suffering. victims came forward with stories of coercion, manipulation, and abuse, often at the hands of people they were taught to trust. Many were lured with promises of education, travel, or financial reward, only to be exploited for Epstein's pleasure. Some victims were even paid to recruit others, perpetuating the cycle of abuse. And when the files were released in 2026, there were failures in redaction, exposing the identities of at least 31 survivors, leading to harassment and re-traumatization. The emotional weight of the Epstein Files lies not in the scandalous names or elite parties, but in these human stories. They remind us that behind every document and photo is a life permanently affected. Jeffrey Epstein's life was not just about wealth, it was about power, connections, and influence. Through parties, private jets, and luxury properties, Epstein built a network spanning politics, royalty, business, and entertainment. Some of the most notable figures linked to Epstein, whether through social interactions, flights, or documented meetings, included Donald Trump attended social gatherings with Epstein in the 1990s and early 2000s. Photographs capture them together at Mar-a-Lago and New York events. Bill Clinton, listed on flight logs multiple times traveling on Epstein's private jet. Clinton has publicly denied visiting Epstein's residencies. Prince Andrew, allegedly involved with Epstein's circle through repeated visits to his properties. He has consistently denied wrongdoing. Bill Gates met Epstein several times to discuss philanthropy. Emails later showed Gates's unease with Epstein's behavior. Michael Jackson, interactions reportedly occurred through shared celebrity circles, though no criminal allegations are documented in the files. Narendra Modi, while not directly implicated, Epstein reportedly attempted to connect with international leaders, including India's political circles, via intermediaries. Global royalty and heads of state, including European monarchs and leaders from the Middle East, demonstrating Epstein's access to worldwide influence. The Epstein Files show emails, flight logs, and photographs that reveal the breadth of these connections. While social contact does not imply guilt, the network allowed Epstein to operate with near impunity, protected by the shadows of influence. Epstein's private jet, infamously nicknamed the Lolita Express, became a symbol of his reach and audacity. Flight logs indicate that he transported politicians, celebrities, and business leaders to locations including his private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Little St. James, known in court documents as a hub of abuse. Victims described the flights as a tool for isolating young women and showcasing power to influential guests. While some visitors claimed ignorance of the abuse occurring, others came under scrutiny for their associations with Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell was essential to Epstein's operations. Court documents reveal her responsibilities included recruiting and grooming young women, coordinating meetings with high-profile figures, managing logistics for Epstein's properties, events, and flights. Her 2021 conviction confirmed her direct involvement in criminal acts. Yet the files suggest her influence extended far beyond, orchestrating introductions to politicians, royalty, and billionaires, creating the illusion of legitimacy and shielding Epstein from scrutiny. Epstein's reach was international. Records show meetings and interactions in cities such as London, Paris, Geneva, and New Delhi, as well as at his ranch in New Mexico and residences in Manhattan and Florida. The Epstein Files also reveal attendance of CEOs, Nobel laureates, and diplomats at his events, philanthropic gatherings and charity meetings as tools for networking, strategic use of wealth and access to maintain protection and influence. The system was clear: money created access, influence offered immunity, and secrecy enabled crime. Epstein's ability to weave himself into elite circles shielded him from legal consequences for years. While the world saw glamour and exclusivity, victims endured unimaginable abuse. Survivor accounts describe grooming through false promises of mentorship and career opportunities, coerced sexual acts with powerful individuals, intimidation and threats to enforce silence. The Epstein Files expose the terrifying reality of how wealth and influence can be weaponized against the vulnerable, leaving victims feeling powerless in the face of global power structures. Ultimately, the files reveal a chilling truth: Epstein's crimes were not isolated incidents, they were enabled by a global ecosystem of power. Emails, photographs, flight logs, and witness testimonies depict a world where access and influence were currency. Abusers operated under the shield of wealth and prestige. Victims were silenced while the elite network thrived. The revelations are both shocking and sobering, showing that no level of fame or authority guarantees protection from scrutiny or consequence. Jeffrey Epstein's most notorious property was his private island, Little St. James, in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Court documents and survivor testimonies describe it as a place designed to isolate and control victims, far from the eyes of the public and law enforcement. The island featured luxurious homes, private beaches, and helicopters for transport. But beneath the luxury lay a disturbing reality: young women were groomed, coerced, and trafficked to powerful visitors. Flight logs and records show the island received frequent guests, including celebrities, politicians, and high-profile financiers. Epstein's other residences, in Manhattan, Palm Beach, and New Mexico, were also centers of operation. Manhattan's mansion alone included multiple floors of private rooms, security cameras, and hidden exits, enabling both privacy and control. Survivors recounted how these residences became traps under the guise of mentorship, networking, or career opportunities. Epstein's operations were not confined to the United States. Documents reveal connections across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, linking him to global elites. Prince Andrew, numerous visits to Epstein's island and properties in the US. Bill Clinton, travel on Epstein's private jet to international destinations. Donald Trump, social interactions at Mar-a-Lago and New York parties. Bill Gates, meetings in the US, discussing philanthropy while navigating Epstein's shadow. French, British, and Middle Eastern royalty, Epstein sought access to influential circles for both financial and personal leverage. Through these connections, Epstein was able to expand his influence beyond US borders, using his network to avoid accountability and gain access to even more powerful figures. The Epstein Files include hundreds of thousands of pages of documents, emails, photographs, and videos, offering unprecedented insight into his criminal enterprise. Emails between Epstein, Maxwell, and influential figures discussing events, meetings, and gifts. Flight logs documenting travel with prominent politicians, celebrities, and business leaders. Photographs and videos of gatherings that raised questions about the nature of interactions at his residencies. Financial records showing donations, payments, and transfers, often to obscure shell companies or foundations. While not every individual in the files was implicated in wrongdoing, the documents illustrate how Epstein leveraged connections to maintain his power and secrecy. The Epstein Files are more than a collection of documents, they are a chronicle of trauma. Survivors describe experiences that are chilling and heartbreaking. Recruitment of teenage girls under the guise of education, career mentoring, or modeling opportunities. Coerced sexual activity involving wealthy and famous individuals. Psychological manipulation, threats, and intimidation to ensure silence. Repeated abuse across multiple locations, including the island, private jets, and residencies. These accounts highlight the emotional and physical consequences suffered by the victims, underscoring the stark contrast between the opulence of Epstein's world and the suffering he inflicted. Ghislaine Maxwell remained Epstein's closest associate and facilitator. Her conviction in 2021 confirmed many survivor allegations, but the files indicate her reach was broader. Coordinating introductions between victims and high-profile guests. Organizing travel, accommodations, and schedules to ensure secrecy. Managing the social image of Epstein, presenting him as a philanthropist and respected businessman. Maxwell's involvement shows that Epstein's operations were systematic, organized, and strategically executed, making it possible for abuse to continue for decades without major legal intervention. The Epstein Files shook the world because they exposed the intersection of wealth, power, and abuse. They reveal how influence can protect perpetrators, intimidate victims, and evade justice. From politicians to celebrities, financiers to royalty, the documents reveal a disturbing truth: the reach of Epstein's network allowed systemic abuse under the cover of legitimacy. The revelations prompted investigations across the US and abroad, sparking renewed conversations about the abuse of power by the elite, the complicity or negligence of those who turned a blind eye, the need for global accountability and victim support. For years, victims and witnesses were silenced by intimidation, wealth, and the fear of retribution. Epstein's death in 2019, officially ruled as suicide, ended his direct control but left thousands of questions unanswered. The Epstein Files continue to serve as a reminder. Power can corrupt systems meant to protect the vulnerable. Wealth can shield criminals from scrutiny. Truth often emerges slowly, but survivors' voices are central to accountability. Even as new revelations surface, the human stories behind the documents remain the most powerful testament to the harm caused and the resilience of those who survived. In July 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested on federal charges of sex trafficking of minors in Florida and New York. His arrest marked the beginning of an explosive legal battle that would rock the world. Epstein faced multiple charges, including sex trafficking of minors, Conspiracy to traffic. Abuse of minors across multiple states. The arrest sparked public outrage. Survivors, activists, and journalists called for accountability, pointing out that Epstein had previously avoided serious punishment through a secret plea deal in 2008 that had allowed him to serve just 13 months in a private wing of a Florida jail. Investigators pored over flight logs, phone records, and financial transactions. Epstein's private jet, dubbed the Lolita Express, documented travel with world leaders, celebrities, and billionaires, including Bill Clinton, flew multiple times, including trips to Africa for philanthropy work. Donald Trump, known social interactions at Mar-a-Lago and New York events. Prince Andrew, extensive visits to Epstein's properties. Bill Gates, private meetings discussing philanthropy while navigating Epstein's circle. Other world leaders and politicians, records hint at meetings in private estates and international trips. Though presence in Epstein's circle did not automatically imply wrongdoing, these connections fueled global scrutiny and media attention, raising difficult questions about the complicity or naivety of the elite. After years of investigation, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested in 2024. Recruiting and grooming minors for Epstein. Coordinating abuse with high-profile guests. Obstruction of justice and lying to investigators. In December 2021, Maxwell was convicted on 5 counts, including sex trafficking of a minor. Her trial offered harrowing survivor testimonies, evidence from Epstein's private diaries, emails, and flight logs, insight into how the abuse was systematically facilitated by Maxwell. Her conviction marked a historic moment of justice, though many argued that the true scale of Epstein's network remains partially hidden. The Epstein Files triggered investigations worldwide, as governments and law enforcement agencies re-examined ties to influential figures. In the United States, Congress and federal prosecutors reviewed previous plea deals and policies on sex trafficking. In the UK, scrutiny of Prince Andrew intensified, leading to civil lawsuits. In France, Israel, and other countries, authorities examined Epstein's financial dealings and international network. The files also prompted widespread public discussions on wealth, power, and accountability, highlighting how social status can shield perpetrators and silence victims. One of the most profound impacts of the Epstein Files is the amplification of survivor voices. Organizations supporting sexual abuse survivors gained visibility and funding. Documentaries, investigative journalism, and books brought the stories of victims to a global audience. Social media campaigns encouraged survivors to speak out, fostering a culture of courage and solidarity. These efforts remind the world that justice is not only about punishing criminals but also about empowering victims and preventing future abuse. Despite arrests and convictions, Epstein's death in August 2019, officially ruled a suicide, fueled widespread speculation and conspiracy theories. Some believe powerful figures had a motive to silence him. Others question the handling of evidence and jail protocols. International observers highlight that Epstein's hidden accounts and offshore holdings remain largely untraced. While theories vary, one truth remains: the Epstein Files revealed a network so vast that many questions are still unanswered, and the full story of influence, abuse, and complicity may never be fully known. Behind the documents, flight logs, and media frenzy are the survivors whose lives were permanently altered. Many endured years of psychological trauma, fear, and isolation. Families were fractured, and victims often faced societal judgment and disbelief. Yet, many survivors found strength in speaking out, turning pain into advocacy. The files are a sobering reminder of the human cost behind headlines and names, showing that no matter the wealth or fame involved, abuse leaves a lasting impact. Epstein's story and the revelations from the files offer lessons for the world. Power and wealth do not absolve responsibility, even the elite can be held accountable. Transparency is essential, hidden networks and secret deals only empower criminals. Survivor voices matter, real justice begins when victims are heard and believed. Global cooperation is needed, abuse that crosses borders requires international accountability. Though Epstein is gone, the world continues to grapple with the ethical, legal, and societal implications of his crimes. The files remain a chilling reminder of how far power can shield wrongdoing, but also of how courage, persistence, and truth can challenge it. The Epstein Files exposed the darkest corners of influence and corruption, connecting celebrities, world leaders, and financiers to a network of exploitation. They revealed a story of luxury masking horror, privilege shielding abuse, and courage fighting silence. While justice has been partially served, the files continue to shape the conversation about accountability, abuse, and power. The global community has been forced to confront uncomfortable truths, that wealth and fame can protect criminals, but they cannot erase the pain inflicted on countless victims. The Epstein Files are not just documents, they are a legacy of resilience, warning, and vigilance.
For having hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, now knowing everything that we know, whether or not they should be held accountable as to whether or not there was any criminal activity. And obviously we just don't know. One has to hope that because we now know so much more, that there is so much public scrutiny on this, that the wheels of justice will turn in a way that they definitely didn't